Good day to everyone. I have here a quotation which I think is somehow related to me as an educator and to the topic that I'm going to discuss today. It is from Alice Wellington Rollins. The test of a good teacher is not about how many questions he can ask his pupils that they will answer readily, but how many questions he inspires them to ask him, which he finds it hard to answer. For me, it is not about how many items or how many questions or test items you can give. The important thing is how you will let them analyze, to dig deeper, and to respond by asking you a question which you yourself needs to explore for you to be able to find the answer for the question or for their question. Because for me, giving exams, it should have a purpose. It should always have a purpose, and you should not give an exams or a test in which you already know that they will be able to answer the test or that exam. By the way, my name is Pinky Aglobo, and I'm here to discuss the test item selection and analysis. So let's start. What is a test? A test is a measurement device or technique used to quantify behavior or aid in the understanding and prediction of behavior. Practically, it means testing, such as the series of questions or practices for evaluating skills, knowledge, intelligence, capacities, or aptitude of an individual or of a group. It is also used or tools to use for evaluation. So when we are looking at as a test items or test questionnaires and yung mga exams, we can see the item. So an item is a specific stimulus to which a person responds overtly. This response can be scored or evaluated. The item, if you are looking at the test papers, so these are the item or these are the questions given by the test taker to analyze for them to answer. It's either different type or it's either in different form, but it is being scored and the score will be or will serve as its evidences. So there are, as I have said a while ago, there are different type of tests, the objective type, the short answer type, and the essay type. These are the common, and we are very much familiar with this type of test because ever since we were in elementary up to now or until now, we can still encounter this type of test. So objective type of test are tests that are requires a specific answer for the question. So for example, the multiple choice, the alternative short response like true or false, the matching type, as well as the completion test. So these are or those are the type of objective type of test. So objective type can be regarded as objective rather than subjective because we all know when we say subjective type of test, it includes say for example the short answer type and the essay type of test. It includes some of the test takers' opinions or experiences or their own arguments and ideas. Unlike in objective type of test, there are only one questions for each, one specific answer for each question. How about the short answer type of test? So short answer type, these are the type of test or an item which the test taker needs to supply a short answer for a specific question. So for example, in a word or in a few sentences, it is commonly or it is usually a direct questions in which the test taker will just analyze and answer it by a word or by a sentence. So next is the essay type. So in essay type, it requires the students or the test takers to construct a rather long written response up to several paragraphs. So in essay type of test, it has or the students or the test takers, or includes their ideas, their knowledge, or their arguments or position in the given concepts or ideas of the topic that they are going to answer. Next is the selection test. Selection tests are used to provide a valid and reliable evidence of abilities, intelligence, personality characteristics, aptitudes, and attainments. So, selection test is the one that used to provide valid and reliable evidences. So, what are those evidences or reliable and valid evidences? So, these are the result of the test tools used in measuring one's capability, intelligence, or in any areas. Um, in selection tests, it also the result of a collected data from the interview and any other uh, tools of testing that you use or that you administer. Test selection can be divided into two broad categories. The first one is measure of typical performance, and the second one is measure of maximum performance. The measure of typical performance, such as personality inventory tests that do not have a right or wrong answer, and measure of maximum performance that measures how well people do things, how much they know, and the level of their ability. The test analysis is the process of analyzing test bases, all documents from which the requirements of a component or system can be inferred, and defining test objectives. It covers what is to be tested in the form of test conditions and can start as soon as the basis for testing is established for each test level. So test analysis is the process of looking up something that can be used for the derive of information. It is what we call the test basis. So we cannot start making an exam or making a test item without a test basis. So it is the process of analyzing, and it is a form of research as well, where you can get the basis for the test items. Item analysis is a process which helps to locate items that are too easy or too difficult, and items that fail to discriminate between the more and less able member of the group. Item analysis is analyzing the item itself. It helps us to locate what is the item that is too easy or too difficult, because there are some instances that the students was not able or was able to answer the test item. That's not because they don't know the answer, or not because they want to guess, or not because they are lack of knowledge, but because there is a problem about the test, or there is a problem about the test item. In administering examination is true and correct, valid and reliable. So how can we say that it is reliable? If it is free of error variance. So there are some tests, or there are some um, errors in constructions of test items, that is test items that needs to revise. So in that way, we should be knowledgeable in making examinations in the test items as well. So type of reliability, coefficient, the stability. Say for example, the test and the new test. When we are giving examinations, the test that we're giving, ayan, magpapatest tayo. Then after that, i-retest natin the same questions and the same examinations. And then let's compare the result of the test. The equivalence, the alternate forms or yung alternatives na tinatawag natin for questioning. Internal consistency, split half. Kukunin natin yung half, then we're going to get the even versus odd numbers. The rational equivalence, KR, 20. Decision consistency using criterions reference test. Next is the item objective congruence. The first step in validating a criterion reference test is to establish item objective congruence. So the questions that needs to be answered here is how the item is congruent to the objective. So for example, uh, it should be that the item or the question is related to your objective, and your objective can attain the performance that you want to attain in the latter part. Item revision is analyzing the pattern of responses for destructors. It is an alternative way to determine the effectiveness of destructors. Item revision, we are always revising the item when we think it is not suited, or if it is not meet the objective of the performance that we need to attain. If the item is obviously correct, or if it is obviously wrong, so we are going to revise the item. So there are so many factors why we are revising the item, because we cannot just give the item without validating it, without analyzing it, if it is correct, or if we can give this to the students or to other people if it is not well constructed. The following procedure will improve the process of item revision. The first one is, ideally, trainees should answer all pre-test questions incorrectly and all post-test questions correctly. So why do we think that the trainee should answer all pre-test questions incorrectly? They should answer pre-test incorrectly because when we are taking a pre-test exam, there are no knowledge, we don't know, or we know nothing about the topics, the ideas, or the knowledge about the lessons, about the content of the test, and questions incorrectly and all post-test questions correctly. So bakit tama na pagdating sa post-test? Because in the post-test, since it is we know the mistakes that we've done in the pre-test, the post-test should be correctly. We should answer that correctly. Dapat nasagot na yan ng mga trainees in the post-test. It should be perfect na kasi namali na nga nila in the pre-test. So definitely, they gain knowledge na. They gain learnings from the questions or the items there. So definitely, they should get the correct answer. Next, if a majority of students miss an item, it does not necessarily have to be changed, but check it for accuracy and find out if the material was covered during the training. So it is not necessarily to change the item or to revise the item, because there are some instances that we are the students, say for example they are taking examination, they are all of a sudden they wonder bakit ganun yung examinations na lumabas, bakit they don't know how to answer it. Maybe because it is not covered during the training. Ibig sabihin, may mga items na naisama that is not that is not yet discussed by the teachers. So that is why, obviously, they will not be able to answer that specific item. Revise or eliminate items answered correctly by more than 80% of examinees on the pretest, or incorrect less than 30% on the post-test. Ayan, yung mga correctly by more than 80% of examinees. Ibig sabihin that is too easy question kasi biruin mo 80% ang nakatama sa kanila. That is easy question. And incorrect less than 30% kasi bakit naman they made a mistake in that in that post. So definitely siguro there is something wrong in the test. That is why most of them made a mistake. Next is rewrite or eliminate post-test items that correlate less than 0.15 with total test scores. Rewrite or eliminate the post-test items. Eliminate or replace distractors that are not chosen by examinees. So we are wondering bakit kaya hindi yun yung napili niya. So maybe there is a possibility that that item is obviously not included in the choices, or it is not preferable for the choices. Parang hindi mo yun pipiliin kasi parang malayo yun nasagot. So if that's the case, so distractors parang hindi mo na masasabi na confuse yung bata what they have to choose kasi there is one item that they sure not the right answer. Next is prepare tables that summarize gains or losses by item based on trainee pretest post-test scores. So we're going to make it in an item, so tables for us to be able to see the trainee pretest and post-test, so we can get comparison. Next, discrimination indexes should be positive for correct answers and negative for incorrect answers. Distractors that are never or infrequently selected should be revised or eliminated. That is according to Millman and Green. Ayan, those distractors that never selected by the examinees or by the test takers, it should be eliminated. You're going to change the options. Report total test reliability first and remove each item from the test and calculate test reliability excluding that item. This procedure generates tests with the highest possible reliability that is according to Thomson and Levitov noong 1985. Next, if more trainees answer an item correctly on the pretest than on the post-test, it is a weak item that should be revised or eliminated, or perhaps it is material that was taught improperly. Meaning, if the students or if the test takers got higher correct items in pretest than in post-test, so definitely there is a questions why they got the correct answer in pretest and they mistake and or made a mistake in post-test. So you should revise or eliminate, or perhaps the materials was not taught properly. You have to reteach these topics or these items for you to find out if it is in the teaching process ba, why they get the wrong answers in the process or something like that. Next, examine the percentage of trainees who select each distractor's patterns of incorrect responses can reveal misunderstandings, ambiguity, lack of knowledge, guessing, or an incorrect response on the answer sheet. Next, interview the criterion group to identify the problem area on the test using question listed in the table. So you're going to make an interview about using these questions in the table. Say for example, item ambiguity. Did an item seem confusing? Queuing. Did a guess a question give clues about which answer was correct? Di ba yung mga questions that has clues for the students to easily and to know what is the right answer. Miskeyed answers. Do you disagree with any of the correct answers? Parang for you, bakit yun yung answers? For me, it is not the right answer. But there are some students like that or test takers like that. Inappropriate vocabulary. Were you unfamiliar with any of the word used? Unclear items. Did an item have two correct answers or no correct answers? And there are some instances that there is a question that doesn't have an answer, or there are questions that has a one, two possible answer. Next is unclear instructions, where the instructions clear and easy to understand. Ayan, baka mamaya they was not able to answer the test item because they was not able to understand the instruction. Most probably if the items or if the instruction for that item is for item 1 to 10, then one instruction for that 10 items. So definitely that will result of to get the feeling grade. Next table. In this table, compares responses on a single item for the pretest and post-test scores for a group of 25 trainees. The responses indicate that on the pretest comparable number of trainees selected each distractors, while on the post-test 22, which is 88%, trainees selected the correct answer. So as you can see, the option A, B, C, D, and E, 5, 6, 4, 7, 3, 0, 6, 4, 7, 3. So if you're going to compare the pre-test and in the post-test, most of their answer is letter D. That is a good pattern. So table illustrates a poor pattern of responses on a question that is probably too easy. Ayan. So for example, pattern of responses for an easy question. A, B, C, D. Ayan. Easy answer, correct answer, or correct response. Because there are so many students who got the right answer in letter D, meaning it is a very easy question. Next, table response pattern that indicate a strong possibility of a question with two correct answers, C or D. Ayan. Misleading question. Ito yung there are two possible questions in the test items. Say for example, this one. Ayan. They are confused what is the correct answer. So the correct answer is letter D for that example. Next is presents a different perspective from item difficulty can be viewed. A sign of positive indicates that a trainee answered a question correctly, while a sign of negative indicates that an incorrect answer. Many more trainee than untrained persons should answer a question correctly. Ayan. Instructed than uninstructed. So as we can see, para mas marami nakakatama or instructed, of course. Next, item difficulty. Item difficulty is the percentage of people who answer an item correctly. It is the relative frequency with which examinees choose the correct response. That is according to Thorndike, Cunningham, Thorndike, and Hagen in 1991. It has an index ranging from a low of 0 to a high of positive 1.00. Higher difficulty indexes indicates that easier items. An item answered correctly by 75% of the examinees has an item difficult level of 0.75. An item answered correctly by 35% of the examinees has an item difficulty level of 30 or 0.35. So let's see. From here, there is a formula. The item difficulty is calculated by using the following formula. Difficulty is equals to number of answered an item correctly, or number of those who answered the item correctly, over the total number of tested, kung ilan yung nag-take ng examinations, times 100. For example, assume that 25 people were tested and 23 of them answered the first item correctly. So the difficulty is equals to 23 over 25 times 100. The score or the average is 0.904. In norm reference test, the optimal level of difficulty depends on the number of test items and the chance score. The following formula calculates the optimal difficulty level. Optimal difficulty is equals to chance score plus perfect score minus chance score, number of options times number of items. So that is the formula. Table 9 lists the optimal difficulty level for items with different number of options. Difficulty level of item different options for test with 100 items. So we can see the number of difficulty, 0.75, 0.65, 0.63, and 0.60 for each number of options. Next is the optimal difficulty level of per item with different options for test with 100 items. Number of options 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then optimal difficulty level 0.75, 67, 63, and 60. A simple way to calculate the ideal difficulty level is to identify the point on the difficulty scale midway between perfect or 100% and chance level difficulty is 25% for items with 4 options. So, pag apat yung options, 25% yung kukunin for in 100%. So, the optimal difficulty level is therefore 62.5. Present for 4 options, item, Thompson, and Levitov. on criterion reference test. However, the optimal difficulty level for items should be very low for instructed groups, less than 30 or 0.30, and very high for uninstructed groups of more than 80 or 0.80. So that is the end of my discussion. Thank you for listening.